sorry to say Bob has an asshole, but Bob's asshole is only a small part of who Bob is. All right, folks, so you're ready for the show? Are you ready to hear him? All right, folks, your first comic, she actually works for BCSS, and she did a tremendous job putting this all together and helping to make it happen. Give it up for Paula Rumiakis.
Thanks, David. Wasn't it great? Let's give him another hand. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, I've been living with a mental illness for over 30 years, and it can be pretty challenging. It's hard enough to seek help, but then you have to get a diagnosis and find the right medication. This can all get pretty complicated, especially if your psychiatrist doesn't know he has a problem. Living with bipolar disorder is kind of like being on a roller coaster. It has lots of ups and downs. The only difference is, with bipolar there's no admission fee, and you have to wear a straitjacket instead of a seatbelt. And on a roller coaster, you usually scream because you're having fun, not because you think you're Joan of Arc. Sometimes when I'm depressed, I move so slowly that even a sloth on Valium moves quicker than me. Only I'm much better looking. But I move so slow that it takes me 3 hours to take a shower, 3 weeks to get dressed, and 3 weeks to escape from the psych ward. Hey, you try running down 4th Street wearing nothing but a blue gown that's open in the back. And having sex when you're depressed can be a challenge. First you have to take a shower, and it's usually a good idea to brush your teeth. And I don't know about you, but staying awake also helps. When I'm manic, I end up getting so exhausted. I mean, it's hard to get a good sleep when you think it's your responsibility to find the solution to world peace. At 4 a.m., I'd be like, Eureka! I've got it. The solution is medical marijuana. That way the Taliban would be so stoned that they couldn't launch a rocket, let alone pick up the phone and order a pizza. Sometimes when I'm manic, I do really inappropriate things. One time my doctor told me I was dressing provocatively, to which my response was, I know, give me a break, I'm just trying to get lucky. And speaking of doing inappropriate things, there's the time that I bungee jumped naked. I know, right? It's the first time ever that I was encouraged when I said I wanted to jump off a bridge. Taking medication isn't fun, and there can be awful side effects. My new med causes excessive perspiration, which makes me sweat all the time. I've always wanted to be hot stuff, but this is ridiculous. It's bad enough that you have to take medication at all, but sometimes you have to take a few. And this is called a cocktail. Although I've never heard of a bar that offers a drink that causes dry mouth and constipation. So I've been in the hospital a few times too, like David, and when I've been in there, I've often lost memories of what I've done. It's too bad people are always so eager to remind me. Yeah, I kind of wanted to forget about the time that I went to art class in my underwear. And speaking of art therapy, you know how they're always trying to get you to do collages of your hopes and your dreams? Only how do you find a picture of escaping from the hospital on the back of a Harley driven by Brad Pitt? So there are other types of therapy besides meds that can help. There's like group therapy, where you get a group of people together trying to learn coping skills like stress management and self-care. And my personal favorite is how to sneak a smoke in your room by standing under the fan on the toilet seat. So even though I've actually quit smoking 2 years ago, I'm still telling smokers jokes. So being a smoker is like torture when you're in the hospital. I I mean, they offer you nicotine replacement therapy, and that's supposed to take the edge off. But that's kind of like offering a heroin addict a bag of flour. I mean, he'd be like, what do you want me to do with that? Bake a cake? There's also yoga therapy, but I don't know how useful this is. I mean, how does twisting myself like a pretzel help me get out of a sweating jacket? Getting exercise is hard when you're in hospital, unless you include running around naked in occupational therapy, shouting, "Tag, you're it." So you've all heard of affirmations before? So it's another thing that they suggest you do. This is where you repeat positive things to yourself, like, I feel good, I feel wonderful, I feel great. The only problem is that I ended up with a new diagnosis because I kept talking out loud to myself. Relaxation can be tricky when you're depressed. You're already moving so slow that if you relaxed anymore, you'd be in a coma. Kind of like my psychiatrist 5 minutes into my appointment. It's hard to be fashionable when you're in hospital. Between the stylish pajamas, the severe bedhead, and trying to walk with tissue paper slippers, you're not exactly going to win America's Top Model, but you just might make the cover of Mad Magazine. Thanks, you've all been great. I just wanted to give a shout out to my psychiatrist who showed up here tonight. He's one of the many people in this room without whom I wouldn't be standing here. Thank you.
And just a couple other people I wanted to give a shout out to. We have a couple MLAs from the Liberal Party, Jane Thornthwaite and Donna Barnett. Where are you? Right here. Thank you for coming. And we have your new poverty minister, Mr. Shane Simpson, down here. Yeah, we really appreciate the support. And you know, the way what I figure is mental health, it's not an NDP issue, it's not a Liberal issue, it's not a Green issue, it's an us issue. It's every one of us. And so we need all the support that we can get in terms of helping us tell our stories and destigmatize the whole issue of mental illness. And one of the things I do is I'm a counselor, and it's interesting. We have this technique. I'll give you a little tip, those of you who are thinking of going into therapy. And the technique is that when someone asks us a question, we answer with a question. So someone says to me, "David, what do you think I should do?" And I say, "What do you think you should do?" Now, most people don't realize this is going on, but occasionally someone picks up on, they're like, "Hey, wait a second. I just asked you a question, you answered with a question, I'm getting ripped off, I want my money back." To which I say, "Do you think you deserve your money back?" And being a counselor it's really changed my perspective. It's really just screwed up my whole perspective on life. It really affects every area. I was driving home one night and I got pulled over at a roadblock. And the cop is like, "Have you been drinking?" And I'm like, "How does it feel to ask that question?" So I'm in the police van. And I've seen lots of psychiatrists, and for the most part, my psychiatrists have been awesome. I mean, I like to tease them, but they've been really good. I figure they can deserve it. They're sort of like at the top of the mental health pyramid, so they can, they can handle. They have the self-esteem. They can handle a bit of ribbing. And one of my psychiatrists was doing a whole an assessment on me, and just for fun. So he's like, "Do you have any medical conditions that run in the family?" And I'm like, "Yeah, death." Yeah, got everyone on both sides. We thought Uncle Fred had beaten it, but it turned out his wife just had him stuffed and mounted on the couch. And to make him look alive, she actually had a TV remote put in his hand. But I knew something was up. I got suspicious because the last time I went over, I'm like, "Wait a second. He never used to watch Bridezilla and Keeping Up with the Kardashians. And the other thing too is that like I said, I take meds, and there are a lot of misconceptions around medication. I was at this conference once, and this expert was like, antidepressants are an addictive drug. And I'm like, really? Next you'll be telling me they're a gateway drug that'll lead me on to more powerful substances like Tums, Lifesavers, Fisherman's Friend, Preparation H. Now, I didn't mind being called an addict, but I mind being called stupid. And with all the great street drugs out there, I would have to be an idiot to choose antidepressants as my high. I'm gonna see going to my dealer, yeah, I'm looking for something that takes 4 to 6 weeks to kick in. Yeah, and I don't need to get high, I'll just settle for dry mouth and sexual side effects. Anyhow, folks, your next comic, please welcome J.D., the Juris Doctor!
Thank you, David. I'm going to take this home with me tonight. My doctor wants a stool sample. Excuse me for using notes, but my memory not as good as it used to be. So either all those light drugs I'm on, or I'm developing old-timer's disease. Yes, I'm wandering, I'm confused, and I repeat myself. And that's on a good day. Now the DSM-5, that's the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. It's the textbook psychiatrists use to diagnose their patients. So by the next edition, number 6, it's been estimated 95% of the world's population will have a diagnosis. And so will the other 5%. I asked my shrink if I could borrow his copy of the DSM-5. He said, no, get your own copy. So I stole one from the library. Now I have a diagnosis of bipolar and kleptomania. And no library privileges. Now all these psych drugs have 2 names, a generic name and a brand name. It's like they have a split personality. Just like some of the folks who have to take them. My psychiatrist likes to over-medicate his patients. That way the sessions are shorter because they fall asleep before he does. Polypharmacy is a practice of prescribing multiple drugs for the same symptoms. The only problem is you don't know which drug is working and which one isn't, or how to go about adjusting them. Can you say, Polly want a quack? At times I like to steal my psychiatrist's gold pens, you know, the ones with the engraving with the drug names on them? That way he has trouble writing out his prescriptions because he can't spell the drug names, I figured. But they don't get much for them at the pawn shop. You got the drug name on them. So I decided to steal his laptop computer. But the pawn shop turned me down. The police confiscated it once they found the hard drive was full of porn. I recently spent some time in Victoria's new psych ward, the Archie Bunker Center. I like the new recliner chairs there. It's like all the family there. It's got microwave food, family arguments, and group counseling to learn Houdini escape techniques. And the new hospital lobby is really elegant. They've got this person playing a grand piano, kind of like the cheerful orchestra on the Titanic playing to the doomed passengers. Only they had a better chance of escape than we do. Once the Ministry of Social Development cut off my disability benefits, so I had to live in my Jeep for 3 years. But I was quite creative. Let's face it, not many people can use their license plate number as their new postal code. Some of our new psychiatrists come from India, Pakistan, and South Africa, but it's hard to get appointments sometimes because they're always down playing cricket in Beacon Hill Park. And those matches can go on for weeks, just like some of my psychotic episodes. My new doctor just doesn't get it sometimes. He thinks that slapshot means hitting someone in the face. That a hydroelectric dam is a device they put in your mouth during ECT. And the Trans-Canada Highway is a website for gender reassignment surgery. I asked my psychiatrist about a success rate. He said 100%. Medical Services Plan has paid all of my invoices. He grosses over $600,000 a year, but he pays no income tax. That's because he writes off all his patients. I once asked him to interpret my dreams, but he said his mother wouldn't let him bring his Ouija board to the office. So instead he brought out his tarot cards. But I think the deck was stacked because I kept drawing the Fool card. My psychiatrist makes Freudian slips, but you only notice them when he wears a see-through dress. At one point he told me I had an Oedipus complex. So for months I thought I had 8 arms, because I thought he said an octopus complex. This last time he prescribed birth control pills for me when I was hypomanic and I was overly sexual. Well, I was still manic, but at least I didn't get pregnant. Thank you, good night, God bless.
JD, the British Doctor! And your next comedian, please give it up for Meryl Gousset.
Hello everybody. Welcome to my own self-inflicted hell. As a show of gratitude, I promise not to evacuate my bowels in front of you beautiful people. So, by a hearty round of applause, who here is pumped to show their support for a loved one and the Stand Up for Mental Health program? Now, by a show of quiet desperation, who here has experienced your own mental health challenges and just the thought of duking it out with your inner demons on stage, under a spotlight, and in front of a live audience makes you cringe? Okay, great, we're on the same page then. So it's official. I'm mentally ill. I know this because my doctor told me so, but I reject this because my doctor is WebMD. If Google is your primary care physician, you might want to consider a second opinion. So I have been hospitalized before, and at one point they gave me the PHQ-9, a questionnaire to screen for depression. And based on how you answer each question, you end up with a tidy numeric value indicating the severity of your depression. The test was out of 20, and I got a 92. But that's just because I've always been an overachiever. According to this PHQ-9, 0 to 4 means normal, 5 to 9 indicates moderate depression, and 15 to 20 represents clinical levels of irreversible soul crushing. Yeah, kind of like when I look at my bank statement each month. My time in hospital was like a crash course in normalcy. I relearned critical life skills like how to wake up before 2 p.m., how to make eye contact, but not too much eye contact, and my personal favorite, how to self-medicate using weed and Haagen-Dazs as a form of therapy. And apparently normal people do things like solve 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzles, organize rousing midday ping pong rallies, and end the day curled up with a riveting Sudoku game, all by 8 p.m. If that's the picture of normalcy, I think I'd rather be depressed. I mean, at home, at least I could veg out to Netflix like a normal person, right? So like many of us who've struggled with their mental health, I've got a less than reliable memory. I lose things a lot, and important things too, like my keys, my wallet, any and all hope for mankind. But it's all good though. They usually turn up somewhere, often buried in the junk drawer of modern day existence. Yeah. My memory lapses are actually quite embarrassing because I'll often forget people's names and how I know them. Seeming strangers will come up to me and say, "Don't you remember me? We hung out on Salt Spring and did mushrooms." I don't know. Dropping acid in Whistler maybe, but never Salt Spring on mushrooms. I gotta admit though, I do love me some mushrooms when surrounded by the beauty and creatures of nature. But I gotta say, not everybody appreciates it, especially at the petting zoo at Beacon Hill Park. It's tough to stumble on love when you're depressed and dealing with PTSD. Unless, of course, your potential partner sees an exaggerated startle response and bursting into tears for no reason as attractive qualities. That's my material, by the way. One thing I hate about dating is that it turns getting to know someone into a job interview, where people just say the things they think the other wants to hear. Like, a guy will say something like, "I love fine dining," which turns out is really just code for, "I'm on a first name basis with a Patago delivery dude." I have a genuine disdain for dating and hookup culture, but I love people watching. One of my favorite things to do in a restaurant is play Spot the Tinder Date. And, with my best Sir David Attenborough impression, allow me to narrate. Ah yes, the ravenous male has arrived. On time, sporting his skinniest jeans, a brazen display of his virility. The tentative female is radiant, or what is colloquially referred to as on fleek. He quickly establishes dominance and, in an attempt to increase his chances of copulation, orders another round. His potential mate laughs in nervous agreement, while the young male begins to froth at the mouth. Although she may appear to have taken interest, the young man's plans have been foiled, as she is desperately texting her friends for an out. Once again, this young male will be applying his coconut oil alone tonight. So, I come from a very strict Filipino fundamental Baptist upbringing, that's a doozy, and my parents had some pretty strong ideas of how I should live my life. My sister did it right and married her high school sweetheart. But I, on the other hand, I decided I was a strong, independent woman who didn't want to go that route. I mean, why commit to one person when you can go through a series of dysfunctional, ill-fated relationships? Yes, someone knows what I'm talking about. I once had a one-night stand with a traveling stripper. That happened, and that got beyond awkward. It wasn't so much that he didn't know my last name. The real doozy was waking up the next morning covered in his bronzer. Needless to say, I shimmered the entire walk of shame home. And try as I might, I can never forget the time I went out with a grown man with a bunk bed. Having to climb a creaky ladder just to go to bed was a real mood killer, especially when his mom was asleep on the bunk.
Really good sing. And let's keep it going for your next comic, Jessica Stepution.
Hello folks, my name is Jessica Stepution. Let's give a quick round of applause to the people before me. Great delivery, solid comedy, really funny stuff. Well, that's over now, folks. Now you and I can have a sit down and talk about the horrors of mental illness. Things like personality changes, medication side effects, going to your psychiatrist's office and finding parking. This might surprise some of you considering tonight's topic, but I have a mental illness. But I have a number of coping mechanisms. One of them is inappropriate humor, but David doesn't allow nudity or live demonstrations, so. Another coping mechanism of mine is crochet. I debated showing you all tonight, but I had to keep my set under an hour. Besides, it's really hard to crochet a tinfoil hat the first time. But there is one coping mechanism that is near and dear to my heart. And I'll share that with you right now. I mean, the cops don't like it when I show up at Tim Hortons without my pants on, but it is a good way to get to the front of the line. I'm a gamer. Any gamers out there? All right, you guys are gonna have a fun time. The rest of you, well, it's been a pleasure meeting you. You can all go home. Drive safe, God bless. For those of you who aren't gamers, this is gonna be a lot like Sunday night dinner with my folks. Awkward, long pauses between words, a lot of silence. Kind of like your reaction to this joke. So yeah, I use video games to cope with my illness. So naturally I own like 300 of them. Is my attention span the size of a peanut? I'd suggest an entree of bullet-storm shooters with a side of anxiously checking your Facebook every 5 minutes. Is today an anxious day? Better skip the horror genre and go to Minecraft and build yourself a blocky little psych ward complete with a medicated zombie. Otherwise known as my last roommate. I didn't mind him walking around on my apartment, but I drew the line when he tried to eat my brain. There is some debate about esports, or video games, electronic sports, being considered for the 2024 Olympics in Paris, France. Imagine seeing this glorious body competing with Team Canada in 7 years. Actually, I'm not referring to the date of the Olympics. That's just how long it's going to take for me to get into bed. Next to Canada's strongest, fastest, and most graceful citizens, you'll have me, able to point and click slightly faster than everyone else. While others are off breaking world records in the 100-meter dash, you'll have me, off slaying hundreds of digital orcs. But I hate to say it, which would you rather see? A guy running in a straight line, or me single-handedly killing the orcs of Mordor in under 20 seconds? I met my boyfriend on a video game called Warframe. It's quite good. The logo is Ninjas Play for Free. So naturally, I had to pay the full retail price of $79.99, plus a monthly subscription fee, plus my first unborn child. Having a long-distance boyfriend is great. If he ticks me off, I can stop healing his character and watch him die. Slowly, while laughing. The game itself is a great workout. I can jump 2 stories, I can do a backflip, and I can eat Cheetos, all from the comfort of my recliner. I play online games a lot. It usually involves talking to strangers on headsets, you know, giving team orders, asking them about their day, or casually mocking them for having to play video games to deal with their existential dread and crippling social anxiety. That's what you get for living at home with your parents. You're 50, cut the cord already. I use public voice chat a lot while I'm in game. It's pretty magical to enter a public voice lobby and hear young men shouting racial slurs at each other and getting them to turn polite with a simple, hello. If only that worked at white supremacist rallies. Sometimes people in these chat rooms can be quite rude. Maybe he's having a bad day, you know, maybe he's got some bad news, or maybe he just hates getting repeatedly killed in-game by a woman who is clearly targeting him just to hear him scream in frustration. Then again, it is the closest he'll get to a date. Sometimes voice chatters can get really creepy, sometimes even frightening. Things like, I'm gonna hunt you down, I'm gonna find you on Facebook, or I'm gonna find out where you live and show up at your front door. So basically the first conversation I had with my boyfriend. They should start producing video games for people with mental illnesses. Good news for all yous with psychosis. You don't need a computer to play. Anxious people, you can play Worry Simulator 3000. If you're depressed like me, you can play the post-apocalyptic survival game called My Life. And people with OCD, you can play the new hit mobile game, Tap Tap Tap, Tap Tap, Tap 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 Tap.
Distribution. And shall we keep it going with your next comic, Mr. Chris Mackenzie?